Hey, Andrew, can I ask you a question?
Sure thing.
Did the movie Zapped almost destroy this podcast? Because I feel like ever since I watched this movie, nothing has gone right in our
it
lives
was it
since.
was Pandora's box. It was truly
It was.
horrible. You know.
It was. Hold on for 1 second. I have to do one thing. What's up, all you sleaze bags out there, and welcome. We're back to Sleaze Bag Cinema. I am one of your hosts, Mike Jamison, and with me, he's alive, and so am
Hanging in
I,
there.
is Andrew
COVID
Gross.
round
Andrew, well,
number
you're kind
three
of alive,
is
right?
is is in
You're
effect. So
barely alive. You're hanging in there. I've heard the third round of COVID is the best round. I've heard
well,
that's it's like chef's kiss. That's the
to
best
be
one is the
honest,
third
I
time you get
I
it.
feel it, but
That's when
not
you get when you get
I'm not like
superpowers.
a blinding. I have to sit in a dark room migraine bad. It's just I have a really bad dry cough, and I got a pretty good dull headache, but that just won't go away. But it's not debilitating, so I'll take this.
It's funny because those are the symptoms I felt after
Oh
watching the
my
movie that we're
god.
kind of going to talk about, Zapped. Yeah, welcome back, everybody. It's been a while since we talked to everybody. Uh, I'm not gonna bury the lead. This episode was supposed to be about the movie Zapped, and Andrew and I did watch it. I think we both watched it probably about 2 months ago when the
Right.
last time that we were able to record. Um, And I'll tell you what, I watched it 2 months ago. I was not watching it again. I wanted to record because I haven't seen Andrew's smiling face and his graying temples looking like Doctor Strange and or Reed Richards. But I wasn't watching Zap. I wasn't watching Zapped again. There was no way that was happening. So instead, before we start to talk about Zapped, which will probably take like a minute, um, yeah, I wanted to like bring the audience up to date because we haven't been around. This was like on my other podcast on the Mass Faces and Secret Bases. It had been about 2 months too, and I
That
kind of called it
that's legit.
our summer hiatus. And now we're back for the fall season. Yeah, so now we're back for the fall season for Sneeze Bag Cinema as well. And just to give our loyal listeners an update of what's been going on. So yeah, I mean, I felt like I was going to die. I had COVID earlier in the summer, back in June, and then after a couple of days of being really really sick, I thought, "Oh, I'm okay." And then
Yep.
proceeded for like the next 2
It's
months to feel like I was going to die. So that was awesome. And that was the first time I had COVID. So like I said, this is your third time. You're a veteran. You're going to be okay. You'll be fine. And the last time we recorded, weren't you still laid up from like I keep imagining you, and I know it didn't happen this way, but I keep imagining you like going to walk down your basement stairs and just like falling. Remember the old Sesame
yeah.
Street skit where the guy would would count and he would fall down the steps? That's how I imagine the accident happened for you. So how's that? Is that all healed
No,
up?
no, this wasn't a Howard Stern, Fred Norris sound effects. As I go down the stairs type thing. I was just kind of not really watching where I was walking, and my wife had thrown an empty Amazon box down uh into the basement, and I was going up the stairs again, not really watching where I was stepping. I put my foot on the box, thinking it was the first step, and when I put my weight on it, the box, cardboard box, just collapsed. And I
That's right. I
basically,
forgot. It was your family trying to kill you. I
yeah,
forgot. I totally
I
forgot about
basically
that.
rolled my ankle, up into my calf, and uh, I would have. It was in so much pain. I would have cut it off if they told me, asked me to. It was so bad, but thankfully I got some scans, and initially the hospital said I had a broken foot, so I got crutches and a soft cast, or they did a ace bandage, plaster cast and wrap. And then when I saw a foot specialist a few days later, he looked at the scans like, no, you don't have your foot's not broken, but you definitely sprained it. That's where all the pain is. And he just gave me some really good loopy pills, and about a week or so later I was okay. But that's the last time we probably spoke.
Don't take my loopy pills away from me,
Yes,
Frank.
seriously. So
Yeah, so basically what we're telling the people who are listening to this podcast is we are really old. So we're just complaining about every little ache and pain that we have.
yeah.
We are just old people. Yeah. What else? I'm trying to just go over what's happened because it has basically been uh the whole summer. I mean, what I grew a I feel like I'm like Thor in it wasn't Endgame. I think it was was it Endgame when he says, "I see you copied my beard." I grew a Obadiah Stane beard that my wife in a
In a
cave.
cave.
My wife has not still. I keep expecting to wake up and find her shaving my face when I don't know because she hates it.
That would be on brand
Yeah,
for
so
her.
now I'm basically just growing it out of spite because I want to see how long I can get away with it. It's
Mm,
probably gonna be until the holidays when I have to take pictures, and then I'm gonna have to shave it off because, um, I'm a wimp, and I'll just do whatever my wife asks. But right now, and plus, I have the approval of my
there you
son. He
go.
says it's cool, so I always feel like I need a 13-year-old. I'm still deep inside. I'm still that 8th grader who wants to be in the cool club. So if my 13-year-old 8th grader tells me I look cool, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm keeping the beard then. There, there was one other big life changing moment this summer that I want to talk about. And the life changing moment was I finally watched Blade.
Whoa, whoa!
How long have you been trying to get me to
It's
watch
been many
Blade?
years. Well, okay, it was the it started all the genre stuff, between DC and Marvel that you and I have enjoyed for going on decades at this point. That really was the first one. And don't give me freaking X-Men. It was Blade. Blade was started it all
Yeah, Blade did come. It
it showed
it
these
came
things
out
could be
before X Men. It came out in
profitable.
'98.
It didn't make money like
Um,
Titanic, but people, for its budget, it was a very profitable movie.
I don't think I've ever heard Blade and Titanic uttered in the same breath
Well, now you
before, but I
did.
mean, you do you, buddy. Um,
It was a
I
surprisingly
I didn't, and I
successful box office hit. So, and it spawned two.
and I did not only
Go ahead.
watch. No, I was gonna say I did not only watch Blade. I watched Blade 2 as well. I bought the trilogy. I watched Blade and Blade 2 with my son, and we have not watched the third one yet. So I've watched Blade and Blade 2, but I have not watched the third one yet. And this is going on like I think I watched Blade 2 like a month and a half ago. So I'm still trying to carve out time to watch Blade 3 with my son and complete the trilogy because I got to see what happens. I need to see what happens. I need to see Ryan Reynolds in another superhero movie.
Spoiler: he plays a smart, Alec wisecracking uh, character. I know that's off brand for him, but yeah,
No way. Are you serious?
yeah, I
Ryan
know,
Reynolds
I
plays
know.
real. Wow, it's good. It's nice
Yeah,
to see he was stretching in his earlier career. Yeah, that's thank God. I mean, I wonder what happened. I mean,
I'm
that's
telling
pretty
you.
interesting that he was stretching like that
But
back then. No, but in all honesty, for as
that's
much grief as I've given you, they were enjoyable. I mean, they didn't change my life, but they were not terrible.
no, but they were. Well, you remember? Okay, well, let's go down the blade hole for a minute.
Okay.
That sounded
God,
that sounded far dirtier than I
God,
meant it. But
yeah, it
I
did,
got
but
my. It
it's
was
so
my
much better than
birthday
talking
back
about
then, and
Zapped.
my wife said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go see a movie." Now, again, I was not a print comics kid. You brought me into the fold and took me under your wing with that.
I
But
got you.
so I had no idea who Blaze, but I knew that I was a kid of the '80s and '90s. So I'm like, Wesley Snipes, fucking a. And I just saw the trailer. He's like, we have all of our strengths, none of our weaknesses. I'm like, I'm in. So she takes me to see Blade, and she, hates gore. So, she's sitting there just like covering her eyes the whole movie. But I loved it. I thought it was so kick ass. I'm not as I like the second one, don't get me wrong, but like the first one, I just loved it because I thought the martial arts was awesome. And it was him and stunt guys fighting. And the second one, they did a lot of CGI to the fight scenes, and to me it was a little ridiculous to watch. Don't get me again, I enjoyed it. I love oh, what's his name?
I'm gonna think of who else was in
No, no, the other main vampire guy.
Steven Dorff
He was no in the
in the
second
second
one.
one.
He was
Trying to think of who was
he
the
was
See, this is what I mean, like, I saw it, and I enjoyed it, and I can't remember who the mains.
Who
Oh,
was the
the
actor
guy who played Hellboy.
who was the
The guy who
Hellboy?
played Hellboy.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman. He was great. You know,
Yeah, he was good. He was good. He's good in
if you
everything.
blink, there was a very young, non-speaking Donnie Yen in that movie. So
Yeah, that's right.
all
Yep.
the CGI fighting and
Yeah.
so forth. But still, give me some more Blade. I'm there for it.
Well, I promise when I watch the third one and I finally complete the trilogy, I will let you know. And then see, it's a shame because now we gotta like put this bit down because this has been like a running bit for like I
It's
don't know 10 years. Have I known you for? I don't even know how long it's been, but this is a good bit. I can't believe now I'm gonna have to put I gotta put
bef-
this bit to bed. But I've actually seen. Well,
before we
I've seen the
close the
first
Blade
two.
hole. Uh, we
God,
the third
no.
one though, you honestly
Yes,
you really got to make sure you watch the extended version. If it's not in your trilogy set, I have it and I'll give it to you because there honestly is another 15 to 20 minutes added. Might not even be that much, but there is. And I'm not joking, it really does make it a way better movie. Because they cut it down, they just stuck
mm,
to a lot of the Ryan Reynolds comedy, which is very funny. And Jessica Biel, the lovely Jessica Biel's action scenes, but there's a couple they actually kind of give some background because they're spoiler, they're hunting Dracula, the Dracula in this one. And they
no
kind of
way.
it gets instead of
Hmm.
being like a kind of a comedy action movie, they actually get really serious and like they kind of go down a darker path. And you're like, wow, I honestly was like, wow, if they'd have kept to that theme throughout more of the movie, that was and Triple H is in it. Oh my gosh.
It was
Uh,
the early to mid. It
but
was
I'm
the early
telling
to
you,
mid 2000s.
don't
So
don't watch it unless you have the extended version, please.
even if I don't, I'll tell you that I don't. So you can give it to me, and then you can return my You can return my bachelor
Now I
party
can
to me
return
too,
Bachelor
you
Party.
bastard.
Right.
I know where you live. I did want to bring up one other
Yep.
thing because I found this very, very amusing, and I don't want to forget about it. Um, so I always check like our stats because I need vindication. Like I said, I mean,
Oh shit.
I was happy when a 13-year-old said I look cool with a beard. So you kind of get like insight into my psyche. But I'll always check like how many listeners we have on like Spotify and Apple and YouTube. So one day I go to the YouTube Studios app where you can tell how many people are looking at the video. Like I put the video up on there. It's just a static picture of whatever I put up there for the episode. Then you hear the audio. But I started to realize I was like, wow, we have a lot of views. I can't believe this. And then I'm realizing that people are thinking that they're seeing the movie instead of listening to a podcast. So one day I opened it
Ah,
and there is an actual comment, and I was like, "Oh, I can't wait! I
really?
can't wait!" It was
Fantastic.
for it was for our Police Academy episode, which has three
Right.
3,000 views. Because I think it's because people think they're getting the movie for free. So I open up the comment, and this is the comment. I can't wait. I'm like, I can't wait to see what somebody's going to say about the podcast. And I'm not going to say the name of the person because he probably doesn't want me to say his name. But this is the comment on our Police Academy episode. I want to see the movie. That's the comment that they left. So, hey, you know what? If we're getting views, that's great. But people are clicking on there thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get a free Police Academy. I'm going to get a free Blazing Saddles." Yet, no, 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 no. You're just going to hear our stupid voices talking about these movies. So, sorry, guys.
Oh wait, by the way, back to the Blade Hole. Um,
Oh God,
it
do
go-
we?
no, hang on.
Do we have to go back to the blade hole?
So it goes
Is the
without
blade
saying.
hole
Hang
clean?
on. You should be thanking me for harassing you
Okay,
because did
with the blade
because
hole. Don't harass my
listen to me.
blade hole.
Listen to me now and talk to me
Yes,
later.
yes, yes.
Right? Yeah, I'm for sure you took Xander to see Wolverine and Deadpool. Okay,
I
well,
did. I did.
would you have had any context to the cameo had I not badgered you to watch those movies?
Yes,
No, you
of
wouldn't.
course I would have. Spoiler alert: Blade appears in Wolverine and Deadpool. Yes, I knew Wesley Snipes played Blade. It's not like I would have been like, "Who's this guy?" And I am never so happy that right now Andrew's feed went out for a second, so he can't speak. so I can. Okay, now he's back again. I was going to cut you up. Your feed kicked out every couple of minutes. You keep kicking out, and I have to. I have. I don't know. I.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. But
You're
he
right.
dropped his
And it was a.
one of his greatest lines
You're right, and it was
in
a cool cameo.
Wolverine
So
and
I mean, thank
Deadpool, and you
God for
wouldn't have
you
known what it was
finally
from.
browbeating me into
You
watching
wouldn't have known the
Wolverine.
context.
Excuse me, watching
So
Blade. After 10 years, I finally did it. My life is now complete. If I
you're
die,
you're
which
welcome.
I thought earlier this summer I was going to die, if I die on my deathbed, I will say, "Bring Andrew to me, please." And you'll come to my deathbed and hold my hand and say, "Mike, are you okay? I feel so bad. What's wrong?" And I'd whisper, "I'm just happy that you made me watch Blade," and then I would just keel over
And
and
I would just be
die
like,
in your
well,
arms.
some motherfuckers are always ice
You
skating
know what?
uphill.
That was a great line. You could put a copy of Blade in my casket with me if I go before you. If I go before you, put the
Yep.
extended version of Blade 3 in there. Give me something to watch in the All right. That's funny. He was going to say, "Why do I keep dropping out?" And he just dropped out again. There you go. You were going to say, "Why do I keep dropping out?" And you dropped out again. This episode's going to be great. This is going to be me just talking to myself. You're back again, by the way. So don't say anything about the audience you won't want them to hear. One other thing. So, as you know, you and I are both MASH fans. Very, 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 very big MASH fans. And there is an awesome MASH podcast that I'm lucky enough to guest on that I listen to all the time called the Best Care Anywhere podcast. And when I was on there, the two hosts, they're two youngins, two whippersnappers. They're millennials. They want to come on to this program, to Sleazebag Cinema, and discuss a movie that they think should be included amongst the pantheon of some of the movies we talked about, like Bachelor Party and Blazing Saddles and Police Academy. They want to come on and talk about Tommy Boy. And one, I will say, the invitation is out there and, of course, accepted because I'd love to have them on because they are great guys. Two, I can't wait to talk about it because I haven't watched Tommy Boy in probably about 20 years. And three, it's going to be really interesting because I just I don't see that getting high up on the ZMED-O-METER because it's Tommy Boy. But you know what? Like I said, I haven't watched it in 20 years, so maybe I'm wrong.
Zmed
But I
meter.
want to shout out the Best Care Anywhere boys. That yes, maybe it'll be the next episode. I don't know. We have to figure out if Andrew and our wives allow us and their schedules, because their schedules are crazy and they're all over the country, allow us. Maybe that'll be the next episode. If it's not, it'll be something very soon. But that will be an interesting one to get a millennial's perspective on sleazebag cinema. That's okay with you, right? To have guests on. We've already had Leanne on, so I know you're cool with bringing more people into our circle, into our
Absolutely.
into our blade hole.
To the blade hole.
Oh God! Oh, son, come here. Let me tell you about the blade hole. So, I want to look on here. We have been recording for 19 minutes, almost 20 minutes. I guess we're going to actually have to talk about Zapped,
Yeah, I'm ready.
aren't we? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Man, you are leading this episode because there is not much that I remember about this movie. Like I said, I watched this movie probably about 2 months ago. I was still getting over COVID, so I was probably somehow in like a haze. But um, yeah, you want to jump? You want to start jumping in? Should we jump in and get this over with?
Yeah, well, let me interview
Yeah,
you for a minute. Did you see it as a kid? Because I didn't. I
I
did
saw
not.
it on cable. I didn't obviously see it in the movie theaters because it came out in '82, so I was 7 or 8.
82. Wow.
But I did see it on cable. Yeah, it came out in '82. Well, if Scott Baio's making movies, it's got to be 1982 or '83 because that's the only time they were putting his dumb ass in movies. So yeah, it
Okay.
came out in 1982. I saw it on Prism. I saw it on Prism. So I had like hazy memories of it. When I watched it, it had probably been like almost 40. It had probably been almost 40 years
Okay.
since I
So
had
let me
seen
ask
it.
you this: do you remember liking it as a kid? I mean, it's got lots of boobs.
I don't. I don't. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember anything. I don't remember feeling anything about it at all. Really, I just remember it being a movie. I
Yeah.
probably that's what I remember about it the most is that it had It had
That's
boobs in it.
right, Chachi.
That's probably what I remember. And then it starred Chachi and Bible Man, otherwise known as Willie Ames. Do you know he was Bible
I don't
Man?
even know. I'm not even sure I know the reference, but go ahead.
I should save this for when you
Okay.
cut out again, because then I'll have something to talk about. But yeah, Bible Man. This was
Wait,
no,
wait.
no.
Did he
This
get all
was like
Kirk Cameron on
some
us? Go like religious
super
and shit.
low. Yeah, I think he's all super religious now. So this was like some low budget, low rent. I think when Xander was born, I was up with my in laws up in Berks County, and we were this. This is horrible to bring this on this episode on this podcast called Sleazeback Cinema. We were in this store. I don't even know where. This is up in Berks County. This is
Sure.
this isn't the city. They're simple folk up there. And we were getting my my mother-in-law, God bless her, she passed away this year. I loved my mother-in-law, but she wanted to get a Bible for Xander. Like, he was just born, so she wanted to get him a Bible. And we were in this store that sold Bibles and all kinds of religious stuff. And I'm just wandering around, and there's DVDs, and it's educational stuff, and it's cartoon. There was always something. Maybe you'll turn on like PBS or or some cable channel early in the morning and find some kind of religious cartoon or religious show. So I'm looking at these DVDs, and there's a series of DVDs starring a Bible Man, and he's like a superhero. He's a religious superhero, and it was Willie Ames was
Does
the
he have an
star.
outfit?
He does. He has a superhero suit and everything. You should look it up while I'm talking. While I'm talking to you, it's probably on. You could probably look it up online. I haven't looked at it, and I think I looked it up after I watched Zapped just to make sure that my memory wasn't deceiving me. It's on Wikipedia too. But yeah, so he starred as Bible Man in this bunch of low budget TV shows or TV episodes. I have never actually seen any of the episodes, but you could. He kind of has like a lightsaber, and everything's
Oh my
like
lord.
related. Are you looking at it now?
No, I
Everything's
don't.
just oh, okay.
Because I keep dropping out, I don't want to put any more stress on my internet.
Nah, no, it's okay. So yeah, everything's kind of like related to some kind of religious artifact or something. But like, I think his weapon it's basically a lightsaber. I don't know what it was. If we were like a professional podcast, I would have had this all mapped
No.
out, but I don't. So whoever's listening and is really interested in Bible Man, you can go online
Wow.
and check it out. But yes, Willie Ames starred as Bible Man. So this, Willie Ames and Scott Baio, the comedy duo of the early '80s, they've fallen on hard times as of late. But no, I do not have any kind of like fond memories of Zapped. I just remember it existing, and I remember there being boobies. And when I was a kid, that was all that I cared about.
Well, yeah, of course. I have vague memories of seeing clips of it, and I think the only and then the number one reason, you know, my friends and I were trying to get to see this is because CJ, CJ was that Pam Anderson on Baywatch, whatever her character's name was on Fall Guy, and I
Oh,
forget.
you
I
talking
think
about Heather Thomas?
Heather Thomas. So we're like, oh, she's naked in a movie. We gotta find this thing. So
And you know that's not really her,
well,
right? That it's a
I
body
was gonna
double.
get to that after having watched it now as an
Oh,
adult
okay. Go
and
ahead.
watching the credits, and then I saw that like I think I texted you immediately like, hey, she used a body double throughout. I'm like, huh. I guess I didn't. You know, if I had that would have been soul crushing as a teenager, thinking we finally got to see her naked and it was a body double. So that was interesting.
You're like, I know Heather Thomas. Heather Thomas's body, and that is not Heather Thomas's body.
Kind of makes you wonder back then why that would have been. I mean, certainly she could. She's beautiful. Like, what does she have? I
Well,
wonder what.
first of all,
Maybe it
they
was just
said,
ethic. Maybe she's ethical or something and didn't want to be naked in a movie. But
that the movie was filmed, and then Porky's came out,
wait, whoa! This
and
predated Porky's. Holy
the produ-
crap!
no, this came out after Porky's, but while they were filming and getting ready to release, the producers saw Porky's and saw the success that Porky's was having. So they went back and refilmed parts of the film to increase the amount of nudity to get an R rating, because they wanted it to be more like Porky's, and they thought that was going to make it more successful. It was originally PG, and I think So they refilmed the nude scenes, and they also added the sex scene with
Wow.
I can't call him by his real name, with Chachi and the
That,
girl who becomes his girlfriend. Um, I'm trying to look online to see why Heather Thomas wanted to use a body double. I don't know if it says a double was used for Miss Thomas in her nude scene and in the photograph. The closing credits declare that a body double was used for Miss Thomas in her nude scene and the photograph, but the person who body doubled is not credited in the movie's billings. Jeez, man,
oh my
she had to
lord.
she had to show it all and she didn't even get credited. Yeah, so I don't know. Again, if this was like a professional podcast, I would have known this already, but I don't see why she didn't want. Maybe I don't know how old she was when the movie was. I mean, I they obviously can't. She was 24 when the movie was filmed. I don't see why she didn't want to do it. I mean, maybe she just didn't want. I mean, I don't blame her. The best is that Scott Baio, they've interviewed him about this movie, and he says it's a great movie. He's like, I loved it, and I love it today. And he's like, that's the movie that most people uh, ask him about, and he talks about Scat. It's funny because I totally forgot that Scatman Crothers was in this. I know him basically from The Shining and from Hong Kong Phooey. I was like, oh my god, he was actually
Oh, I
great.
know.
I loved him in this movie. But Scott Baio was like, Scatman Crothers was a great guy, and supposedly he smoked pot every day.
Hey, you have to get through that movie. Holy Christ.
Oh my god, yeah. So I feel bad for people who are tuning in. Thank you again for tuning in. But there is not a lot I have to say about this movie. It was just, you can tell, like reading that it says that they refilmed a lot of it to get it to an R rating. You can kind of tell
Oh,
because
isn't
it
it?
has a
It is
weird tone
weird.
about it where it seems at first, yeah, it has a very like TV movie tone, but then you're going to get boobs and sex scenes. But it's like super super low budget and low rent, and there's just such a weird tone to it.
Well,
And Scott Baio is boring in it. I don't know how they ever thought that he could be a leading man. And Willie Ames, I'm sorry, is annoying. He is so annoying. I know he's supposed to be the main comic relief, but oh my god, he's so annoying. But did you know that there is a MASH connection in this movie?
please God, no.
Yes, there is, but it's not MASH the TV show, it's MASH the movie. The actor who plays Scott Baio's father is Roger Bowen, who played Henry Blake in the MASH movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And I forgot that the actor's name is Robert Mandan.
Right.
He's a total that guy of 80s TV sitcoms and stuff. He was in Three's a Crowd. He played Jack Tripper's father-in-law. He's been in so many TV shows. I can't even. He's just basically that guy. He was in so many sitcoms and TV movies in the '80s. He was everywhere. But yeah, Roger Bowen. He was Henry Blake in the MASH movie. But even like we're saying, like you were saying that, and I said that I remembered it for boobies. There's really not that much for a movie about a kid gets psychic powers and reading that they wanted to make it more like Porky's. There was not a lot of like
Well,
R-rated shenanigans.
except the very end scene where he just makes the whole prom naked. That was like
Yeah.
maybe when we were 12, that was like, wow, look at all the
Oh,
boobs.
probably. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
watching it now,
Definitely.
like this is just weird.
Yeah, it was super weird. And the whole thing with the mom who
Oh,
thinks he's possessed and and gets the priest to come, like it wasn't even funny. It was just so unfunny and unimaginative the way he like used his powers. And then he had the scary ass puppet that he has in his room. I was like, first of all, I can't believe that I didn't remember that puppet because that thing would have scared the shit out of me when I was 10 years old. Second of all, if I had a puppet like that in my room when I was a kid, there would be no way, one, that I'd be sleeping in that room. And if I was, I would not be sleeping with the light off. I probably wouldn't even be sleeping in that room with the light off now at 49 years old if I had a puppet like that. If my kids had a puppet like that, I would throw it in the trash can and tell them that we lost it because that thing was scary. That's what I remember most from watching this movie.
yeah. I don't know. That was just like where they just try to make him be extra nerdy, and he has mannequins. He's a ventriloquist or something.
And
Like
then
the
there's
whole, it just it was so much. Like it's like they just it was like beef stew. Like just threw everything in this
none of
movie,
it
and none
stuck.
of it
Yeah.
it just didn't coagulate. It didn't
Oh, you
coagulate.
know what? I did find it here. So I was looking online. So I'm going to read this. It's from IMDb. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. But it says Heather Thomas had reservations about filming her nude scenes for what was going to be her motion picture debut. So it says in post production, the production used a body double without her knowledge for her topless scenes at the prom and pasted her head onto a topless body double in the photograph in the movie. And then it says these changes prompted Thomas to file a complaint with the Screen Actors Guild because it
Wow.
broke SAG rules as an actor or actress has right of approval over any body double that may represent them. So that's why they put the disclaimer at the end of the film. So yeah, she just,
Well,
I mean, I guess I understand. She was 24. It was her first movie role. I get it. I don't blame her for being. I mean, it didn't affect her because she was a sex symbol of the '80s. I mean, that's what I remember her most. Before we did this, I actually totally forgot she was in this. I know her for the Fall Guy. That's what I remember
well,
her as.
am I remembering this wrong? Wasn't Fall Guy going on when she shot this movie?
I don't think so. I think Fall Guy came out in '83, but it's close. It's very close. There's a lot of overlap. So yeah, there's a lot of
But
overlap. If it's not exactly at the same time, it's very, very
okay,
close.
then that well that all right. Then my memory maybe isn't so bad because I remember maybe I remember her from Fall Guy and that awesome opening sequence where she opens the bar doors and she's in a bikini.
Yes, and she's in the bikini. That's from the the
So
opening of the Fall
maybe
Guy.
when man we my I think I told you my buddy's dad had a video store and we found out there was a movie she was in that was along. I mean, obviously with the poster and everything, it was all about the jiggle movies in the early '80s. So we were probably like, oh my god, the fall
Mhm.
girl hottie is in this movie and she might be naked. We got to see this thing. So that because I definitely didn't see it in theaters.
I don't think a lot of people saw it in theaters. It didn't do that well. It's funny because it says there's an edition of The Onion,
Yeah.
the parody site The Onion that shows a tuxedoed Scott Baio holding multiple Oscars with the spoof headline "Zapped sweeps Oscars." Also, Demi Moore and Helen Slater auditioned for the role of Bernadette, who was his girlfriend in the movie. That would have been interesting to see Demi Moore or Helen Slater in that part. I actually didn't mind the girlfriend. She was kind of in, like, even that plot, where it has where the part where she kind of like breaks up with him
Right.
near
Right.
the
She gets
end,
all
and then he wants to
throws a
go to
hissy
the
fit.
prom. It's
And
like,
then they go to like the
yeah, it was
frat house
just
and like the gambling. I mean, it was so weird.
it was it was like an extended it was all extended like sitcom moments that they were putting into a movie. Yeah, with they were at the frat house. It was with the guy from Greece. The heck's his name? Eddie something. Hold on. Let me go to IMDb. He always played the nerd back in the late '70s, early '80s. Now it's gonna drive me nuts if I can't see his name. So hold on. Where is he at? Come on, he's got
You're
to be
not
on
talking
here.
about you're not
Oh
talking about the
man,
discount Ted McGinley guy,
how is
are
he
you?
not like? No, that's oh god, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, because I would have forgot. He is totally discount Ted
Okay.
McGinley. And listen, it was Eddie Deason, by the way, is the nerdy guy who played Sheldon. Yeah, that dude is like Ted McGinley. At least had the personality to pull off those kind of roles, and that's why he played a lot of those roles and survived
Well,
after
the
that and
other
had a
thing that I
career.
thought was funny, I
That
don't know if
dude
you've had the same
was cardboard
perspective,
paper.
but like I'm watching this
It
guy
was
and
just
like okay, we
terrible.
watched Ted McGinley and Nerds, and he kind of looks like he's 30 and he's supposed to be a college kid. Okay, this guy looks like he's 45. And he's supposed to be in college. I mean, oh my lord.
Yeah, I know.
I did say,
Excuse me, my grandchildren wanted to come over and say hello to my girlfriend for a second, so hold on. That should have been the scene when they went to the amusement park. It should have been Scott Baio, Willie Ames, Scott Baio's girlfriend. See, I don't even know what the name of his girlfriend was supposed to. Bernadette was his girlfriend. Heather Thomas, the boyfriend, and he should have been bringing his two like grandkids with him. And what was that? Where
Right.
were they? Was that like Magic Mountain or something like that? Where
And it gets in the teacups. These. Oh my god.
even that? Like it's so like why are we wasting time on Willie Ames and his wacky adventures when you're supposed to be having a movie about a teenager who can telekinetically move things? Like you have to if you want I can understand what they were trying to do. I can understand back then for like 1981, 1982, these are the kind of movies you made if you wanted to make jiggle movies. Why not just go full scumbag to coin a phrase and just lean into it? And they just didn't at all. Now I will say the scene with Willie Ames and Heather Thomas when he takes her back to his house and he's gonna photograph her. And I mean that was looking through the lens of
Oh yeah.
2024. I will say it was a little uncomfortable. I understand what they were going for, but yeah, it was a little uncomfortable watching
No,
that.
100%. Because like with our brains now, like, oh, that would be on social media in 2 seconds, and her she would be devastated and psychologically scarred from having that on social media. But I guess back then, ha ha ha, like you expected him to print it out and put it in a whipped cream pie at a county fair or something.
And I think this was one of Willie Ames' first movie roles because he was in Eight Is Enough. This was probably Scott
That's what he
Baio's one of
was
his.
from. I was trying to think what we first saw
Yep,
him in. Right.
yep, he was in Eight Is Enough, and then he went on to do Charles in Charge with Scott Baio because they were
Correct. I
the
remember
comedy
that.
team of the '80s. Uh,
Charles in Charge was an '80s show.
yeah,
Okay.
it was
Yeah, that makes
it's
sense.
after Happy
Yeah,
Days.
yeah, yeah.
It was syndicated. It started out as a network show. It didn't do well, and then they syndicated it. So it would end up like it would be like 3:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday, and I'd walk inside and put channel 17 on, and Charles in Charge would be on, and I'd be like, why is Willie Ames' face on my television? I can't handle this.
Well,
Get away from me. You're you annoy
strangely,
me.
shockingly, I think that show actually had a fairly long run.
It did. It lasted for I think 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
It was what was the blonde
Nicole Eggert.
girl who was in it? There you go. I was gonna say she became like a teen heartthrob. Yep, Nicole Eggert.
Well, she went on to Baywatch, but only for one season.
Who didn't go on the Baywatch?
Eh,
You don't hassle the Hoff.
you and me.
Wow. They didn't want to see my love handles on Baywatch. It'd be Hasselhoff running and me just panting behind him with my hands on my knees like wait. Oh, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'll
Yeah.
catch up. But yeah, it seemed like every hot like who
Yep.
was it? Erica Leniak was on
Yeah.
Baywatch for a little bit. Who was the brunette?
Yasmin Bleeth.
Yasmin Bleeth.
Yasmin
Thank you.
Bleeth.
Oh my goodness.
Alexandria Paul.
I'm glad that you know all of them. You're just pulling it
Well,
out.
no,
Yep.
because I just watched there on one of our multitude of streaming services. There's actually I think a 2 or 3 part, like, the cast, some of the cast talking about the show back in the day, and the shenanigans that went on in and around the show and whatever. And like they had the one actor on who was like, I guess, like a 12-year-old kid on the show, and he was talking about, like, the girls would flash their boobs at him and everything, and he was like talking, I mean, it's like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm a 12-year-old kid on the show with all these incredibly gorgeous women. I'm like, yeah, all right. But like, eventually he got messed up with drugs and everything. Surprise, surprise. So, but that's how I know all the actresses, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, that's right,
Shocker.
that's right. I mean, obviously, always everyone remembers Pam Anderson, but I'm like, oh, there's other people on that show too.
Oh, there was other people on that show, and there were plots and things going on. But Pam Anderson was on it too. Do you
Well,
know that
actually,
they
and then
actually?
the degrees of separation. Alexandra Paul. I didn't pick up on this till I watched that show. She was in Christine. She was
Oh yeah,
she was the hottie in Christine, and she was like a preppy girl with really big hair. And on Baywatch, like, they cut her hair. She had like I hate to say this, like the lesbian
yeah.
cut on that show.
She had the
She's
really short cut. Yep,
she's very
I
she's
do
still I
always
think still
remember
think she's
that.
very beautiful, but it was
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
funny.
But I do
Everyone
always
else had,
remember that. Yeah, she was the girl with the short
yeah.
hair. I do remember
But I'm
that.
like, holy crap, that's the girl
Uh,
from Christine. Wow.
can I tell you the one scene in this movie that I actually thought was funny?
Okay.
And it's like it's totally sophomoric. It was the scene when the principal goes on the date
Oh yeah,
and they're at the restaurant and
right.
she's under the table. She's trying to order.
Well, I mean, and tell me that
That was the
wasn't
only
supposed to
scene that
be
I
like
actually
the
found
Judge
funny.
Smells character.
I
Discount, discount Ted Knight.
exactly. He was and
Yeah.
discount Judd Smales. Exactly. Do you know that they made a Zapped again in 1990?
Please no.
Yes, they did. Zapped again. And it was
Please
rated
no.
R. So, um, I want to see if there's anybody famous who was in it. Hold
Yeah, I
on.
was gonna say, did they bring
Let's
back the
see.
dynamic duo?
Scott Baio and Willie Ames. They were too busy with their comedy, their TV comedy careers by then. They couldn't be bothered to come on, I
The
guess.
Exorcist
Linda
girl?
Blair. Oh my goodness. Karen Bla- yeah, Karen Black was in it.
Wait a
She played
minute.
a
Karen,
substitute
wait, who's
teacher.
Karen?
Lyle
Who's Karen
Alzado. Oh
Black?
boy. You know you're Karen Black. You don't know who Karen Black is? You'd know her if you saw her. Look up Karen Black. You'd know her. She's been in a
That's
lot
not
of movies.
that's not the girl from Indiana Jones, is it?
No, she was not in Indiana Jones. She
Okay.
was in Five Easy Pieces, Nashville. Those are some. She was in a lot of schlock movies
Okay.
in the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
I think she has since passed away. She joins the Wendy Jo Sperber Memorial as somebody. It's not even the
It
main
all
movie we're
ties
talking
back to
about,
good
but
old
she
Wendy
she
Joe.
does she does get her name etched. Yes, it does. She does get her name etched in the Wendy Jo Sperber Memorial.
Lyle Alzado.
He's
So who
another one. He's
was
dead
Karen
too.
Black?
Rest in peace, Lyle Alzado. He played Coach Kirby. Now we're talking about we hated Zapped, and we're talking about Zapped again.
Like the Heather Thomas Hottie in this one?
No, she played a substitute teacher. She was probably in Hollywood
So
years. She was
who?
probably older. She was probably in her
So there's no.
late 30s or 40s by then. So she's one of the teachers. I don't know. I'm
See,
looking at the
now
cast,
you brought
and
it up.
I
I'm gonna
do
have
not
to
recognize any of these
watch a little
faces
bit of
and
it
or
just to get a
names.
sense
So
of. I just want to see who was in it. No, 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 no. I won't get through it. But
you could do your own
I
side
kept going
episode.
with Zap.
You
Like
could
this
do
has
your
got to
own
get
side
better, and
episode.
I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh
Whew.
man, I was kind
No,
of thinking that
that's
maybe for
that's
the first 5 minutes,
that's the
and then I
date,
just totally gave up and was like, "All right,
and
the things I do
maybe
for this
forever
podcast."
the hardest one we ever had to plow through. I mean,
Oh,
good gracious. Let's go to ZMED-O-METER.
I hope so. Oh man, I hope so. Do you want to go to the ZMED-O-METER? Have we talked enough? Have we exhausted what we can talk about with Zapped?
I think I think so. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
No, I don't want to talk about it anymore either. Um, yes, go ahead. What do you think about the on the ZMED-O-METER? Where do you think
What?
it
All
lands?
right. Well, I
Then and now.
then it's zero because that's what it was jiggle movies back then. So they and they brought in some reasonably known people, as in Scott Baio and Willie Ames, and you know Heather Thomas was the eye candy. And then it certainly gave us plenty of boobage at the end with that weird ass prom scene. In today's med, I forget what's our scale. Five or 10 is the highest.
What I don't know. I
Let's
can't.
just say it's
Just
10. I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know. Does it?
It's been so long
I
since we've
don't.
done an episode.
I don't really remember anything being particularly offensive. I mean, Willie Ames is creepy as hell, and photographing a girl that you're trying to pork, without unto knowledge, that doesn't hold up well. But I don't know. Give it a 4, maybe a 3. I don't know. If I can't give it too much on the Zen meter because no one would watch it. It's so god awful. no one, no one would watch it long enough to get offended.
That's very true. That's the clip of the episode right there. Yeah, for me, for back then, for 1982, it's a 0 in the ZMED-O-METER. This was G-rated sleazebag back then. This was nothing compared to other movies. So yeah, 0 for 1982. For now, I'd agree with you. I think it's only even it's like a 3 or a 4. The boobage in this seems perfunctory, and it's not anything. And and like you said, Willie Ames is creepy, and that especially that scene where he's taking the pictures of her, that's really creepy. But it never really gets into. You never feel like anybody
Yeah,
is in any kind of danger. It never gets that salacious. So yeah, I give it a three or
that's for
four. And
sure.
like you said, nobody was even watching anyway. I guess this was like Scott Baio's way. He was probably trying to break out of his chachiness, but he went from his chachiness to his Charlesness, I guess, after this. He will always be Chachi to me. So yeah, Zapped. I think Zapped is the movie that almost broke the
I am.
podcast. Not because of anything between us. It's just because we watched it, and then it was just a
Yeah.
series of bad events and maladies that struck both of us and stopped us from recording for 2 months. So I'm gonna take. I'm like George Lucas. If I could find every copy of Zapped, I would destroy them with a hammer. Yeah, this every time we would try to find a time to record, it would pop up on my brain like, should I watch Zapped again just to remind myself? And it would be like the two angels and devil on the shoulder, except they were both devils, and they were both like, "You're not watching that piece of shit movie again." And the other one would be like, "Yeah, screw that. You're not gonna watch that. Watch something else. Watch Blade. Watch Blade 2. Andrew will finally respect you."
Hey, so I do want to ask you, just sticking on the '80s jiggle theme. So
Yes,
I know, you're not a particularly big horror guy, but in my mind, and I'm not saying I'm right, but in my mind, I think it was probably the first. I see. I don't know what was first, Friday the 13th or Halloween, but one of those two.
Halloween came first.
Okay, so the
Halloween
Hallow.
and then Friday the 13th.
Okay, so those two are the forefather and foremother that created all the copycat slasher films that popped up in our VHS stores with the fantastic covers. So where I'm going with is, like, in your mind, like in your remembrance or in your opinion, what was the forefathers of the Jiggle movie? Was Porky's the first one out, and it went big, and people were like, "Oh, we got to make a Jiggle movie and get hot chicks." Do you think it was Porky's?
That's a really, really good question.
Because there's always one or two that
I don't know
there's
though,
always
because
one or
some
two
of
that
these
set it off.
I think Porky's is I think it was
Explain.
a progression with and this isn't gonna be a Jiggle movie, but I think it was a progression with Animal House and Caddyshack of kind of that anarchistic spirit, and then a movie like Porky's came out, and you saw that you could do that kind of stuff, and it could make money. So I think the successful like Jiggle movies, the ones that really are remembered, are almost like a mixture of that Animal House kind of craziness, and like Blues Brothers, a lot of that Saturday Night Live kind of humor, that anarchistic humor, and then they just threw in the nudity. But I do think you're probably right that Porky's was probably the first one. But then I think, like, when we were talking about doing the show, and I would send you pictures. I mean, you could just go online and look up like teen comedies, or like boobies from the 80s or something like that. But booby movies from the 80s,
See,
and they're I,
I'm not. I'm gonna disagree with you here. I don't see Animal House and Caddyshack as, because those, like, I'm gonna say it this way, those are actually pretty good movies that had a little boobage in
no,
them.
you're
Whereas
right.
whereas some of these movies are
Yep.
just not just dog shit as a vehicle to, like, show boobies. It's like the boobies are like guacamole, but you need a chip to get the guacamole into your mouth to eat. And so, like, this movie is just dog shit with the redeeming quality being, some boobage.
Well, I think this movie in particular, like I said, I mean, they were making this first and foremost as a PG movie,
I
and then
still
saw
can't believe that.
how much Porky's made. So then they can you imagine that? It had to be some
Oh,
old slimy producer like calling up saying
oh
like,
yeah,
"Go
totally.
get more boobies. We got to put more boobies in this
Oh,
movie, and make that Chachi kid go and pork that girl. Yeah, that's what we need for this movie." Smoking a big cigar. So
oh yeah, you could totally see it. Like, oh, who was the guy in the NWA
I don't know.
movie?
I
Jerry Heller. You could just see some
Yeah, yeah,
Jerry
yeah,
Heller
yeah. I know
Reckitt.
you're
It's like,
talking about.
oh
Yep, yep.
yeah, that's the guy.
But you're right.
Or Dice Clay's character in the Pam and Tommy movie. You're just some sleazeball, executive. Like, oh, here's how we're gonna make some money. Get this and this and this, and
but you're right.
we'll be
They
good.
the
I'm just
quality
trying to think.
like the quality isn't
What
the
was the
same as Animal House and Caddyshack, but like you said, they could get away with having a little bit of it, and they were successful movies. And then I think lower budget producers said we could take a
right? So,
little
look,
bit of
what do
that
you think was
humor
like
and
the
slap more
low
boobies
budget
onto the
schlocky
movie.
movie? Was it Porky's?
I think Porky's was one of the first one, but then you look at because they always show like when you pull up movies like this, they always show more like this. And there's a movie like Screwballs. I don't know what year that came
Oh
out,
my god!
but that wasn't a big like that wasn't a big movie. Or Loose Screws, or well, look at the remember Gas Pump Girls, like that had to come out in the '70s, right? But that wasn't like a huge movie. Or The Last American
Right.
Virgin. I mean that wasn't terrible. But that's a good question. I want to pull up like Gas Pump Girls came out in 1979. But again, that was more like
Really? I thought I would have gave that an 81, but okay.
it was also a different time too, where you could go to like a drive-in and see some of these movies, and they could survive just by. I was looking up like Hot Dog the movie, but that's '83. But this is, I mean, as we talk about in the other episodes, this is like the prime time for these type of movies,
Sure.
like '78, '79 to the mid to little bit later '80s. Spring Break, this has got to be like mid '80s. And it's 83. See, like 83. 83 is like that's like the pinnacle of sleazebag cinema
I
is
don't know
83,
why, but I have
84.
forever, I
I'm
always
looking at
like to
some of these
talk
other
about,
ones.
the VHS covers when we were kids, and for whatever reason, Spring Break is forever etched in my mind because it was some girl in a bikini and it's like Gulliver's Travels, and these guys are on spring break. College kids, they're like planting a flag, and as they're climbing her body, I don't know why that particular
Yeah.
cover isn't etched in my brain, but it
But
is.
I think you're right, by the way. I think Porky's might be the first one that really, because Porky's did really well. I mean, I knew about Porky's growing up, and it was a big. Now, when I say big, it wasn't like Star Wars big, but it was a big movie. Like it made good money, Porky's.
Yeah.
So I think Porky's might have been the one that, I mean, we're saying it, and it did so well that other movies were like, let's build. We're going to lean into the tits and ass because that might make us some box
Well,
office.
it's
So
just like all. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars, set the table, and how many god awful knockoffs of, like, oh, we got to go to outer space. And get droids, and there's so many horrible, that try to ride the coattails of Star Wars, and I'm just trying to think. Porky's has got my mind, or my recollection, I should say, is was the forefather of all this stuff. I just
well, the good thing for us is we have a podcast to
Yeah,
cover
there
all
we
these
go.
movies, so we will eventually cover all of them. But I think for now, that
Well,
is the
yeah.
end of the episode. We are
What's
finally done with Zapped. We did it. It only took us what? Every
what's
time I think
next?
I'm out, you pull me
We got to
back in.
cleanse the
What?
palate and try to get a good one
I don't
if
know.
we can. Okay.
I don't know. We haven't decided yet. It's either going to be something you and I decide, or we're going to see if we can line up times with the Best Care Anywhere boys and see if we can do Tommy Boy with them.
Oh
So if
yeah.
it's not going to be that, then you and I will discuss. And yeah, we need to definitely cleanse the palate and do something that we can actually enjoy. But you know what? We still got it. We're at 55 minutes. We almost got an hour episode out of that, and I didn't think we were even going to get 15 minutes out of it. So thank God. And that's the last time I am watching Scott Baio in anything. But
All right, Chachi.
yes. Oh man. Hey Judge. I will say that is not going to be the last time I watch him in anything, because I do have the first 5 seasons of Happy Days on DVD that I haven't watched yet. And eventually, maybe on my like third go around with COVID, when I finally get it, and I'm sitting at home, I'll watch. I'm working my way through Taxi right now, the complete series of Taxi. But so it probably won't be the last time I see Scott Baio, but I'm going to see him as Chachi, and that's it. I don't want to see him. I don't ever want to watch Zapped again.
No,
When I become a
that's a
multi-millionaire,
good palate cleanser. Watch Taxi. Oh my god, what a classic! How many? Well, let's go down that. Let's talk
five,
about the 5 seasons. I thought it was longer, but
I'm
okay.
on the 5 seasons. I'm on the
Is it
second
as funny
season.
as I
It's great. It's
remember, or
as good as I
no?
remember it. I remember my Yes, it is. I remember my dad watching
When
it when
was
I was
that
a kid.
on?
Yes, it's as funny as you remember it. I'll lend it to you after I'm done.
70. Whew. Okay.
78 to 78 to 83. Yeah. 78 to 83. But as you said, we will definitely have some kind of palate cleanser for the next episode. We don't know what it's going to be yet. And we promise that the
No.
next episode, we're not going to take a 3-month break hiatus like last time. Even though it's hard with our children and our wives and homework and COVID and falling down steps and I don't know what else, whatever other like things that happened to both of us over the last couple of months. We promise, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, next
No,
couple
I'm
of
like the
weeks,
wind.
to get another episode out.
If
So
you don't close your
until
eyes, I'm
then, is
not
there
leaving.
anywhere you want people to
Bye.
find you? You're not online. You're like secretive. You're like the shadow. You hide in the shadows. I can't even. No, the wind just broke his leg. That is the best. If you don't close your eyes, I'm not leaving. Everybody close their eyes. But I do want to say for people who do want to get in contact with us as the show, I'm not going to give out Andrew's like home phone number or anything like that. Um, you can find us uh, online. You can find us on Facebook under Sleazebag Cinema. You can find us on Twitter. Just look up
Well,
Sleazebag Cinema. You can email us at sleazy1, SLEAZEE1 at gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube. You can actually leave a real review and not, hey, I wanted to watch the movie like like some people do. You're not getting Zapped. You're just getting a podcast with two idiots talking about Zapped. But please, on Twitter or drop us an email. Let us know your ZMED-O-METER rating for Zapped, or let us know your memories of Zapped, good or bad. How anybody can have good ones, I don't know, but I'm sure I'm going to find
Heather
somebody.
Thomas is a pretty big redeeming quality. I forgot how beautiful she. I forgot how
That's very
beautiful she
true.
was. She is gorgeous.
That is true. That is true. That was the only good
Yeah.
part of watching this movie. I will give you that. But so until we do actually figure out what we are going to do next, I think we're going to leave it at that, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Later.